August 19th, 1944. A ditch outside Trun, Normandy. The air is thick with the metallic tang of cordite and the sweet, sickly smell of churned earth and dying summer foliage. Every few seconds, the ground shudders, a deep, percussive groan that travels from the soles of your boots up into your teeth. For Oberhelferin Clara Schmidt, a signals auxiliary of the German 7th Army, the world has shrunk to the crackle and hiss in her headset. Her fingers, slick with sweat and grime, move with practiced economy over the dials of the Feldhuber radio set, its metal casing hot to the touch. The transmission is a phantom, a ghost of a voice lost in a storm of Allied artillery. Her command post, what remains of it, is a hastily abandoned French farmhouse. The stone walls offer little comfort against the shells that scream overhead, each one a lottery ticket for oblivion. Dust and plaster drift down from the ceiling like a fine gray snow. Outside, the guttural roar of a Panzer IV's engine coughs, sputters, and then falls silent. Another beast slain. The noise that replaces it is worse, the relentless, grinding chatter of Browning machine guns and the sharp, distinct crack of Lee Enfield rifles. They are close, terribly close. A young corporal, no older than her son Hans would be in 10 years, stumbles into the room, his face a pale mask of terror. "They're through the line," he gasps, his voice cracking. "The Canadians, they're on the road." Clara doesn't look up. Her duty is to the headset, to the flickering hope of a connection. She is trying to relay withdrawal coordinates that she knows, with a sinking certainty, are already obsolete. The Falaise pocket is no longer a pocket. It is a tomb, and the lid is closing. She can hear them now, shouts in a language she barely understands, English, but with a harder, clipped cadence. The sharp, authoritative commands of men who are winning. The heavy thud of combat boots on the farmhouse floorboards. The splintering crash of a door being kicked in. The young corporal raises his Car 98K, his hands trembling. Clara, slowly, deliberately, removes her headset. The sudden silence in her ears more deafening than the barrage. She looks at the radio, her lifeline to a world that no longer exists. On a small, leather-braced photograph tucked beside the frequency chart are two smiling faces. Hans, age 8, with a serious expression and a missing front tooth, and Leanie, 6, her blonde hair a chaotic halo. The door to her small radio room bursts open. A soldier stands silhouetted against the dust-filled light, a Sten gun held low and ready. He is huge, his helmet obscuring his face. Behind him, others spill into the main room. The corporal's rifle clatters to the floor. Clara raises her hands slowly, her palms open, a gesture of surrender that feels alien, impossible. Her mind isn't on the gun, or the soldier, or the end of her war. It is on the letter she started last night, a letter she never finished, a letter full of simple lies and desperate hopes. "The weather here is pleasant. I am well. Tell Hans to practice his violin. Tell Leanie not to chase the chickens." Trivialities that felt like prayers. The door to her small radio room bursts open. A soldier stands silhouetted against the dust-filled light, a Sten gun held low and ready. He is huge, his helmet obscuring his face. Behind him, others spill into the main room. The corporal's rifle clatters to the floor. Clara raises her hands slowly, her palms open, a gesture of surrender that feels alien, impossible. Her mind isn't on the gun, or the soldier, or the end of her war. It is on the letter she started last night, a letter she never finished, a letter full of simple lies and desperate hopes. "The weather here is pleasant. I am well. Tell Hans to practice his violin. Tell Leanie not to chase the chickens." Trivialities that felt like prayers. The Canadian soldier gestures with his weapon. Out. Schnell. His German is crude, functional. Clara stands, her legs unsteady. She takes one last look at the photograph of her children, a tiny island of peace in a sea of violent chaos. She wants to take it, to clutch it in her hand, but a move towards the radio could be misinterpreted. She leaves it there, a silent testament on a dead piece of equipment. As she is marched out into the blinding, smoke-choked daylight, past the burning husks of German vehicles and the unseeing eyes of the dead, she feels the first true pang of capture. It is not the fear of the enemy. It is the sudden, terrifying silence, the severing of the last fragile thread that connected her to home. The war is over for her, but a new, quieter, and perhaps more agonizing battle is just beginning. September 12, 1944. Camp 27, Oxfordshire, England. The journey was a blur of dislocation. The jolting ride in the back of a canvas-covered lorry, the faces of resentful French civilians, the crowded holding pen near the coast, smelling of sweat and fear. Then the sea, a bray, churning expanse under a perpetually overcast sky, the English Channel looking exactly as hostile as the propaganda films had promised. Clara had stood on the deck of the transport ship, surrounded by hundreds of other women, nurses, auxiliaries, administrative staff, their gray Wehrmacht uniforms looking drab and out of place against the vastness of the water. The white cliffs of Dover rose from the mist not as a symbol of defiance, but as the bars of a very large prison. Now, weeks later, the prison has a name: Camp 27. It is a sprawling city of Nissen huts, their corrugated iron roofs weeping with condensation in the damp English air. A double row of barbed wire fences defines the perimeter, patrolled by British soldiers in khaki battle dress, their boots making soft, rhythmic sounds on the gravel paths. You learn the geography of your cage quickly. Hut 12 is home. The mess hall is where you endure the bland, boiled textures of British rations. The latrine block is a place of grim necessity. The parade ground is for roll call, twice a day, every day, a ritual of counting heads that reinforces their status as human inventory. Clara shares a hut with 20 other women. They are a cross-section of Germany: a stoic nurse from Hamburg, a chatty switchboard operator from Berlin, a quiet secretary from Munich. At night, in the thin darkness, she hears them. Some weep softly into their straw-filled pillows. Others talk in low, urgent whispers about husbands, brothers, and sons on fronts from Italy to Russia. But mostly, they talk about their children. They trade stories like currency, memories of first steps and favorite foods, of scraped knees and bedtime stories. For Clara, these conversations are both a comfort and a torment. Each story of another woman's child sharpens the image of Hans and Lenny in her mind, making their absence a physical ache. Word spreads through the camp like a rumor of salvation. They will be allowed to write home. The regulations are strict, laid down by a stern-faced female officer from the Auxiliary Territorial Service. 1 letter form per person per month. 25 lines maximum. No military information. No discussion of camp conditions, locations, or the names of other prisoners. All letters will be read by a censor. The mail will go through the International Red Cross, a slow and uncertain journey. It could take months. It might never arrive. But it is a chance. It is everything. The day the forms are distributed, a reverent silence falls over Hut 12. Clara holds the thin, off-white sheet of paper in her hands. It feels impossibly fragile, yet it carries the entire weight of her world. The paper is printed with faint blue lines and a box at the top for her name, rank and prisoner number, 73408. She is a number now. She finds a space on her bunk, the rough wool blanket scratching her arms. She has a pencil stub, sharpened with a piece of broken glass. The other women are already bent over their own forms, their faces etched with concentration, their brows furrowed. Some write furiously, pouring out a torrent of words. Others stare at the blank page, paralyzed by the enormity of the task. How do you condense a universe of love, fear, and longing into 25 lines? How do you tell your family you are alive and safe without revealing that you are caged? How do you ask the one question that screams in your soul, "Are my children safe?" without it sounding like a plea for information, a potential security risk? Clara stares at the blank page. The drone of a distant aircraft overhead is a reminder of the war that rages on, a war she is no longer part of, but whose consequences govern her every breath. She thinks of her home in Stuttgart, of the small garden behind the house. She pictures her mother, trying to manage 2 grandchildren in a city that is now a prime target for Allied bombers. The fear is a cold knot in her stomach. She must write. She must be careful. Every word must be a soldier, disciplined and precise, tasked with a mission of impossible delicacy: to cross a continent, to evade the censor's red pen, and to whisper across 1,000 miles, "I am alive. Do not forget me." October 5th, 1944. The Camp Commandant's Office, Camp 27. The process of writing is an act of excruciating self-censorship. Clara Schmidt, prisoner 73408, sits on her bunk, the letter form resting on a book. For every word she writes, she erases 2. Her first instinct is to pour her heart out, to describe the gnawing loneliness, the constant low-grade fear for her children, the desperate hope that the war will end soon. But each of these impulses is strangled by the imagined face of the censor, a faceless British officer with a red pen and absolute power over her connection to home. So she builds her letter like a fortress, with walls of cheerful banality. "My dearest mother," she begins. That feels safe. "I hope this letter finds you and the children in good health." A standard opening. "I am well." The first necessary lie. She is not well. She is a ghost, haunting the shell of her former self, but well is the required password. "The days are routine, and my health is fine. The food is adequate." She chooses her words with the precision of a watchmaker. Routine instead of monotonous. Adequate instead of meager. She avoids any mention of the camp itself, the wire, the guards. Instead, she writes about the weather. "Autumn is arriving here. The leaves are turning quite beautifully." A neutral observation, a safe observation. It says nothing. That is its purpose. Her hand trembles as she approaches the true subject of her heart, the children. How to ask about them, how to speak to them. Direct questions might be seen as soliciting information. Emotional pleas could be deemed bad for morale, either at the camp or at home. She crafts a sentence she hopes is clever, a message hidden in plain sight. "Please tell Hans I think of him often and trust he is being a brave big brother for Leanie. I hope he finds time to practice his violin scales." The violin. It is a small, specific detail, an anchor to their shared life. For her, it evokes the sound of him struggling through a Bach minuet in their living room, the late afternoon sun streaming through the window. It is a message of love, a symbol of normalcy she prays still exists. For Leanie, she adds, "And give my little one a kiss, and tell her Mutti sends her love." She fills the remaining lines with bland reassurances, generic expressions of love for her family. She reads it over a dozen times. It feels sterile, hollow, a pale imitation of the letter she screams in her mind. But it is safe, or so she thinks. She signs it, folds it precisely as instructed, and joins the queue of women handing their folded hopes to a British NCO. The waiting is a new form of torture. For 3 weeks, she goes through the motions of camp life, the roll calls, the work details, the watery soup, with a knot of anticipation in her stomach. Every day, she watches the gate, hoping for the mail call that will bring news from the other side. Then, one afternoon, an orderly comes to Hut 12. She calls out numbers, not names. 7340. Clara's heart leaps. She steps forward, her hand outstretched. The orderly doesn't give her a letter from home. She hands back Clara's own folded form. Stamped across the top, in stark, blood-red ink, are 2 words. Rejected. Censor. Clara unfolds the paper, her hands shaking. There is a single, brutal red circle drawn around one sentence. "I hope he finds time to practice his violin scales." In the margin, a handwritten note in English. Reference to specific personal skill. Potential coded message. Resubmit. She stares at the words, uncomprehending at first. A coded message? The violin? It was a memory, a piece of their life. To this unknown, unseen enemy, it was a threat. The casual cruelty of it, the bureaucratic paranoia, steals her breath. She looks around the hut. Another woman is weeping quietly, her own rejected letter clutched in her hand. A few others have received mail from home, their faces illuminated with a joy so fierce it is painful to watch. For them, the thread held. For Clara, it has been cut. The red ink feels like a physical wound, a mark of failure. She has not only failed to reach her family, she has failed the censor's inscrutable test. The fortress she so carefully constructed had a secret door she didn't even know existed, and the enemy had found it instantly. October 28, 1944. Censor's Office, Camp 27. Captain Alistair Davies of the Intelligence Corps despises the smell of cheap paper and watery ink. It permeates his tiny office, a cramped space in a wooden hut where the single window offers a dreary view of a muddy track and a sagging barbed wire fence. Before him, under the weak glow of a bare light bulb, sits a mountain of letters. Hundreds of them, all written in neat, spidery German script on the standard POW/X form. His job is to be the gatekeeper, the unseen arbiter of familial hope and despair. He is not a cruel man, but he is a tired one. The war has been going on for 5 long years, and his part in it has been reduced to this, dissecting the clumsy prose of captive women for hidden meanings. He picks up the next letter in the stack. Prisoner 73408, Schmidt, Clara. It's a resubmission. He remembers the first one, the violin. His red pen had circled it almost automatically. The rules, drilled into him during a 3-week course in London, were clear. Rule 12. No reference to locations, unit numbers, or dates of capture. Rule 17. No complaints about conditions that could be used for enemy propaganda. Rule 21. No seemingly innocent personal details that could be part of a prearranged code. A mention of a violin could mean anything. It could be code for a V1 launch site. It could refer to an agent codenamed Violin. It could be a signal to activate a sleeper cell. Unlikely? Of course. But the entire business of intelligence was built on the unlikely. His job wasn't to be a literary critic. It was to eliminate risk, no matter how remote. He sips his lukewarm NAFIT, the taste bitter on his tongue. He reads through Clara's second attempt. It is a masterpiece of emptiness. My dearest mother, it begins, just as before. I hope you are all well. I am in good health. The words are a uniform, stripped of all individuality. She writes about the weather again, but this time it is even more generic. The days are shorter now. She mentions the children, but her words are ghosts. Give my love to Hans and Leni. Tell them to be good for you. I think of them always. There are no details. No violin scales, no scraped knees, no chasing chickens. It is a letter that could have been written by anyone to anyone. It is perfectly, heartbreakingly safe. Captain Davies feels a flicker of something. Not pity, he wouldn't allow himself that, but a weary recognition of the game. He has forced this woman to strip her own soul out of her words. He has compelled her to communicate in a language devoid of life, a series of approved signals that convey only the most basic fact, existence. He dips his pen not in the red ink of rejection, but in the black ink of approval. He scrawls his initial AD in the censor's box and stamps it with a purple circular mark. Passed by censor number 4. He places it on the small approved pile, which will be sent on to the Red Cross in Geneva. He does not think of the woman who wrote it. He cannot afford to. She is prisoner 73408. This is form POW/X. He is censor number 4. It is a machine, and they are all just parts. Back in Hut 12, Clara watches the days bleed into one another. She performs her duties, eats her meals, answers at roll call. But a part of her has shut down. The rejection of her first letter was a lesson in the new world. Personality is contraband. Specificity is a crime. Love must be laundered until it is unrecognizable. She sees the other women and begins to understand their strategies. The ones whose letters get through are the ones who have mastered this art of erasure. They write about seasons, not feelings. They send love as a generic commodity, not as a detailed, aching memory. She learns that to be a good prisoner, to have any hope of contact, she must become a blank slate. The knowledge isolates her. She can no longer share in the hopeful chatter about what to write next. She has seen the cold logic of the machine. The emotional toll is immense. It is a constant, wearying state of self-surveillance, of policing her own thoughts and memories for anything that might be weaponized against her by a tired man in a wooden hut. She decides she must try again, one more time. But this time, she will write 2 letters. One will be for the censor. The other, the real one, will be for herself. November 20th, 1944. A quiet corner of Hut 12. The Nissen hut is cold. A persistent, damp chill seeps up from the concrete floor, a cold that gets into your bones and stays there. Rain lashes against the curved metal roof, a relentless drumming that serves as the soundtrack to their confinement. Most of the other women are busy with mending or reading, their faces illuminated by the dim, yellow light of the hut's few bulbs. Clara sits on the edge of her bunk, a fresh letter form spread on her lap. But she isn't writing, not yet. She closes her eyes, and in the private theater of her mind, she begins the letter she will never send. My darling Hans, my little Lainey, it is your Mutti. Can you hear me? I am writing this from a place that is very far away. There is a great deal of water between us. The sky here is always gray, and it rains nearly every day, a soft rain that makes the whole world feel like it is weeping. I miss the sharp, clear sunlight of our home. I miss the smell of the apple blossoms in the spring, and the sound of the church bells on Sunday morning. Hans, my serious, clever boy, are you practicing your violin? I know you hate the scales, but I promise you, one day you will make beautiful music. That is what I want for you, a life filled with beautiful music, not the terrible noise of war. Are you looking after your grandmother? And are you being kind to your sister? She is small, and she will be frightened. You must be her brave knight. I see your face so clearly in my dreams. You have lost another tooth, I think, and you are taller. You are growing up without me. And Lainey, my wild little bird, do you still wear the red ribbon I tied in your hair? Do you still hide Oma's sewing needles and laugh when she cannot find them? I pray you are still laughing. Your laugh is the most wonderful sound in the world. I would give anything to hear it just once more. I feel the warmth of your small hand in mine. I can smell the soap and sunshine in your hair after a bath. Please, my love, do not forget my face. Do not forget the songs I sang to you before you slept. I am so afraid. I am afraid for you. The news we hear is fragmented, but we know the bombers come. We hear the planes high overhead sometimes, on their way to our cities, to our homes. When you hear the sirens, you must run to the cellar and hold your brother's hand very tightly. Do not be scared. Think of it as a game. And when it is over, I will be one day closer to coming home to you. I love you more than all the stars in the sky, more than all the words in all the books. I am with you, always. Your loving Mutti. A tear escapes her closed eye and traces a cold path down her cheek. She opens her eyes. The dream is over. The gray reality of the hut returns. She picks up the pencil stub, its lead worn and blunt. She flattens the official form against her knee. Her hand is steady now, her purpose clear. The real letter, the one bursting with love and terror and life, will remain locked in her heart, a secret treasure and an unbearable burden. For the censor, she will perform the required ritual. My dearest mother, she writes, her script neat and devoid of emotion. I am writing to let you know I am well. I hope you and the family are in good health. The time passes. I am keeping busy. The weather is seasonal. Please do not worry about me. I send my love to everyone. Tell the children I think of them and that they must be good. I look forward to the day we are all together again. Your loving daughter, Clara. 22 lines of nothing. A ghost letter from a ghost of a woman. It is perfect. It is clean. It reveals nothing of the screaming abyss inside her. She folds it and places it in the collection box, her movements mechanical. She feels no hope, no anticipation. She has simply fed the machine what it requires. She walks to the small, grimy window of the hut and presses her forehead against the cold glass. Outside, the rain continues to fall, blurring the lines of the barbed wire, making the world beyond a watery, indistinct dream. The distance between Oxfordshire and Stuttgart is not measured in miles, but in all the words a mother is forbidden to say. And tonight, that distance feels infinite.